Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie.
Hello?
Hey, Michael, it is Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. How are you?
I'm good, Charlie. It's good to hear from you. I haven't talked to you in a bit, but I follow you on social media, so it's always fun seeing where you're at.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Listen, I am catching up with some of the passengers I've had on my show, and I'm repurposing the show for an article in Armed Lifestyle magazine, and it is called Writing Shotgun with Charlie, so people can read about what I'm talking about, as well as hopefully get them to go back and check out the video interviews that I've done as well. So I'm glad that we can we get some time to catch up and reconnect like this.
Yeah, likewise.
So it's been a couple years since we've done a show. What's been going on with you? What's been happening with you? What's been going on with the Walk the Talk America?
God, it has been a couple years, and that feels like lifetimes for me. I think when I was riding shotgun with you, I think we had just started our cultural competence class for mental health professionals, and that has kind of taken off into another stratosphere since then. Originally back then, that was before COVID, right?
Oh yeah, it was 2019, September of 2019 when we did the show.
Yeah, so what's really interesting about that is we had, I think at the time we had maybe done one course and it was a big success, but then the end of the world happened with COVID and we couldn't obviously, get together live on ranges and things were shutting down and we didn't want to lose the momentum, so we brought the course online. And at first I thought, okay, here's a course that's supposed to teach clinicians about gun culture. And it's so important that we're there live because they need to be able to feel the firearms. They also need to be able to sit on a range scenario, ask questions, those type of things. So when we moved towards the online platform, I was really nervous. I thought, okay, this might be the end of this program, which is unfortunate because I feel like we had a lot of momentum. And it turned out to be the complete opposite. The very first course that we threw online, we had, I think we had something like 70 something participants, like close to 80. And then we threw that exact same course a couple months later just to be able to give people options because and then we had something like 270. So
oh my God,
it was just a dramatic increase.
That is incredible. I mean, people, the whole thing is people really have a yearning to get some education and to learn about stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You give it. I think for the most part, many people are gun curious, regardless of how you feel about firearms. Right? We've all been there as people from the 2A community, Second Amendment community. That we all have that friend that may be anti-gun or just doesn't like guns. They don't want to see people die. But then, as you develop that trust, now they're asking you those questions. You know what I mean? Like, well, what is the difference? Why can't you come off the AR thing? I think that's the great part about it is creating this environment where people can actually, there's no silly question. It's all patience. It's all love. We don't expect anyone to come through that particular part of one of our programs, our courses, and come out and say, oh, I'm totally into guns now, right?
Right.
But as long as I can take you from maybe anti or negative to neutral,
oh yeah,
I think we've succeeded.
Absolutely. I mean, it's certainly a step forward when they go from against it to even just accepting it and saying, all right, well, okay, I get this isn't for me, but I get why you're into this and I understand what your needs are and why you like it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's great to see people being enthusiastic about, okay, these are some solutions that are out of the box, and we should probably give this a shot. Or even someone watching a clinician that comes through our course and watching them sit there and go, I never even realized that a gun owner could be afraid of me. And I have to rethink the way that I approach firearms when I bring it up in sessions.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a polarizing topic, and like you mentioned about COVID stuff. In 2020, with all the riots that were going on, that we found people that were they weren't interested in firearms all of a sudden becoming interested in firearms, or they were, I like to call them gun agnostics, where they weren't against it, but they weren't for it, and it just wasn't anything that they were ever interested in, and then they started to become interested in it, and they need to learn how to be safe and how to understand some of the vernacular and where gun folks are coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is our time. One of the other things that we do, and as I talked about when I was driving with you down in Phoenix a few years ago, using the firearm as a way for people to get help, the help they need when they're in crisis without fear of consequence, right? And now we've seen so many players in the firearm space, companies like Ruger, ArmsCore, High Point, Bursa, now providing the free and anonymous mental health screenings inside the boxes of their firearms. Because now if we add this element of, so when you get a gun, right, the first thing that you're introduced to is the safety rules, right? That's first and foremost, gun safety, right? I would say the second thing that we've always ingrained in people's mindset, especially when they take a course, a firearm safety course or just a firearms training course, is if you end up in a defensive shooting situation, it's not, hey, this guy tried to break in, I shot him, and it's all good. I can go back, there's going to be repercussions regardless of whether you're in the right or the wrong and what to do. We've always prepared for things like that. Now, this third element that I feel like we're adding into the culture is telling firearms owners, you got the first two covered. Most likely, you'll never be in a defensive situation. You're more likely to take your own life with a firearm. But that's why you need a suicide prevention plan and be attuned to your mental health. So I love that we're adding this third piece, and the firearms manufacturers are saying, yes, this makes sense. We could also be a portal for people to get help and understand their mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there have been a couple of people that have been well known in the gun community that have taken their life by suicide, and I don't know if it's necessarily with a firearm or not, but it's always a sad thing when someone does that, because we always want to think that people can reach out to us and contact us and talk to us, but there's still some stigma about bringing this up.
Absolutely. I mean, especially as gun owners. I look at it as this: a gun owner in crisis faces two stigmas. You face the stigma of the mental health issue you're battling at that moment, which, is probably temporary, but means the world to you. And then you also face the stigma of being a firearms owner. And for people to dismiss that we're not stigmatized, we are. Oh, yeah. So, it's twice as hard for the firearms owner, especially the firearms owner who uses his particular firearm to feed his family, right? Yeah. Anyone that's in security or first responders, veterans, active duty military. I mean, it's hard to show weakness and fear that you could be punished for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there is definitely, people think it's a weakness that we need this. I was talking with a friend of mine recently. I feel awkward when I'm talking with folks about. I feel awkward about bringing up mental health because I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? I feel the same way about a lot of topics as well. Like, I'm not a sports guy, so when people talk sports, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to these people. I'll be back in a minute, and then I just kind of disappear.
Right.
So it was interesting because my friend does work in she does work in a capacity to help people that are struggling with alcohol abuse and sexual abuse and whatnot. And she started off her career helping young people that had issues with this. But it was interesting to me that she said we all have mental health. Some of us don't have mental health illnesses, and that was something that really said to me, you know what, we all have things that we struggle with, and we all have things that we need to deal with, and you know, obviously people deal with them in different ways. But I thought it was a good way to put it, because whenever, very much like a lot of things, when I hear people start to use the phrase mental health, if they don't have a background in it, then I'm like, oh man, is this comparable to hearing anti-gun folks talk about 9mm and thinking that ARs are assault rifles and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It makes me start to wonder what that person really knows, and I'm really conscious that I don't want to say that I know how to help people or fix people or anything like that. I just want to be there if somebody needs someone to talk to. I mean, I know how beneficial that can be.
Well, and I think that's fair. You know what I mean? The fear of, like, I don't want to get in. It's the same when, you know, people that want to help people in the firearms industry seek help, but they don't know the terminology of firearms, right?
Right.
It's like there's a lot of clinicians out there that are like, I'd have a local relationship with my gun shop, you know, down the street, but I don't want to go in there and pretend I even know anything about firearms, but, you know, that's intimidating. So I think there is this thing like, okay, you know, I don't want to give someone bad advice, but, you know, you do that though. When you call your friends and you say, how are you holding up? You know, something as simple as that is checking in many times on your friend's mental health or your family member's mental health. So, you know, I find that the best way to just talk about it is, you know, hey, let's talk about what's going on with you. And if you ask me, Mike, how are you holding up? And I just unload on you, right? Because I trust you. Mm-hmm. If you're not equipped to give me the best advice, at least you can point me in the right directions, right? You can always point me in, hey, you know, Walk Talk America's got free and anonymous mental health screenings on there. Why don't you go check those out? You know, just take a screening just to see where you're at.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of different ways, and then empowering somebody too, right? Like you can empower somebody. Hey, look, you know, we looked into the laws here. I think you'll be okay. You know, there are certain states where it gets a little dicey. Like New York is tough on mental health, but there are other states like Nevada where they really can't take your guns. It's very difficult for a clinician to take your guns. So just saying like, hey, just talk to somebody, but it doesn't always have to be a clinician either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I read a self-help book a number of years ago, and one of the phrases that this book used was having a safe person to talk to. And I thought that was I really like that phrase, because a safe person means, you know what, I can talk to this person, I can tell them what's really going on, and I don't have to worry that they're going to go out and, you know, talk to other people and start rumors and that sort of stuff. And it's really, to me, it's really important to have those safe people to talk with.
Yeah, I can totally get behind that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, just for me in general, I had some really good people that I was fortunate enough to grow up around that, you know, they would be like, I am Mike's therapist. You know what I mean? Not on paper, but yeah, I agree. I think that's always a starting point. You have to have somebody you can confide in, somebody that's not just necessarily going to agree with everything you say too, that can play devil's advocate in a way that can help you see things clearer.
Oh, sure.
And maybe, you know, hash out a plan together.
Yeah, I think you're, to me, my really good friends are the people that I have the opportunity to, you know, to dump my crap on, and they say, hey, listen, this might not be their problem. It could be something that's going on with you, and, you know, maybe that's not how you should deal with it. Maybe there's another way you could handle that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And that really is a gut check as well, because you're like, oh, am I dealing with this as good as I could? How could I handle this differently, or how can I handle this better?
Yeah, so. I think you definitely just need to find something that will help you anchor yourself in those times. You know, when your mind's racing, or you have this anxiety, or whatever it is, right? And then, as we know, the last couple of years, there's a lot to have anxiety about. But you know, let's just take shooting for example, right? Like, how many of us take to the range for lead therapy when we're not feeling so hot.
Oh my gosh. I sometimes tell people that AR stands for anxiety reducer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. That and that's what we're doing with our courses, right? Because we want to let the gun neutral or the people who are not informed to understand that if I walk in or I'm talking to you and I say, I had some severe anxiety this morning and I went to the range and I popped off 1,000 rounds and, oh man, do I feel better? They understand that that's normal.
Yeah.
Right?
That you're not, imagining yourself, whatever, shooting a bunch of your colleagues or coworkers or whomever,
Yeah, nothing like that. It's as a matter of fact, it's just like that's the time when your mind's not racing, right?
Yeah.
When you're focused on your target, you're focused on everything, your form.
It's
Yeah,
it's one of these things. Going to the range is one of these things where when you go to the range, like you're leaving all of your other concerns somewhere else, and you're going out and saying, all right, I'm going to focus on this for a couple hours, and we'll deal with everything else when we come back.
Yeah, I think it's so important for people to understand that, the firearm is not just, it is freedom, right? But it's not just freedom. There's so many uses for it. And stress relief is one of them.
Oh my God.
It's fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, this is going to be coming out around the holiday season in 2022. Do the holidays stress you out like they do a ton of other people?
The holidays have changed for me, right? There are certain factors that, people that are no longer in my circle, that they're not here on this planet. That always makes the holidays tough. But, when I focus on things that are positive, like my daughters, right? Like, I don't let it get me down, but you're absolutely right. Like the holidays, some people go into that funk, it could be a very depressing time. It's not all sunshines and rainbows during Christmas, right?
Right.
Depending on what you got going on in your life. So I think that's just more emphasis on let's be attuned to our mental health status, right? So for the holidays, what I would always recommend to anyone is take a mental health screening. Go to our website. They're free and anonymous. There's everything from depression to bipolar disorder, right, to substance abuse. And you don't have to be in crisis to take one and get an assessment on where you're at. As a matter of fact, it's best to do it regularly, 4 times a year, just to get a checkup, right? So you understand you can mitigate those issues that are bothering you. Yeah. The holidays does not always equate to happiness for people, and everybody needs to understand that.
Sure. One of the things that I deal with is I really like the fall. I like the weather change where the days are kind of warm and then evenings are kind of chilly. Obviously, the changing of the leaves in New England is absolutely stunning and beautiful. And I think the darkness gets to me as well, like the time change, and you're getting up, you're heading out to work when it's dark out, you're getting home when it's dark out, you feel like you're at work all day, and I think what gets me going is knowing that on December 22nd is when the days start to get longer.
Right.
So that to me is one of those hurdles. Like, you know what? If we just make it to December 22nd, the days start to get longer, and then about 3 weeks after that, mid January or so, then I start to realize, holy crap, it's still freaking cold out.
Right.
And then that's just another thing. But I'm like, well, the days aren't so long, so that's okay.
Well, one of the ways that I took care of that issue is moved from the East Coast to Las Vegas, where it's sunny the majority of the year. So, but I know not everyone can pick up and leave. But that was one of the ways that I took care of that cold weather from Jersey.
Oh my God! I've talked to a number of people, and they're like, it gets cold up in New England, and it gets cold up north and stuff. And I don't know, as much as I think about moving to free America, as I call it. I think that sounds great to move down south, but I don't know if I can deal with the heat all year round. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I hear you. It's not for everybody, but it's for me. So
yeah, no, and that's cool too, man. That is what's important. That is definitely.
Yeah.
I do like, talking to some folks that live in the South. I like having snow in the wintertime. As much as I hate the cold, I like, I think I like snow more on Thanksgiving than I do on Christmas. But obviously, I don't get to dictate that and whatnot. So
I think it looks really pretty in pictures, Charlie. It really does.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome, man. Yeah, it does. It does. All right. So what else? What's been going on with Walk the Talk America? You got the classes
so right
going
now,
on?
We have a partnership that we sign on a few more gun manufacturers and accessory people to actually carry the card and the box or on their packaging, like Arms Corps Ammo. They put the free and anonymous mental health screenings. I just want to give my flowers to these companies that are stepping up, because they don't have to do this.
Right.
This is something that Walk the Talk America asked these manufacturers like Ruger, put this in the manual, right? They don't have to do this. They're doing it because they know it's the right thing to do. And that's what I love. So I just want to draw attention to that. But our next big project that we're working on, and we're doing some stuff with USDCA that's going to be dropping shortly, which I'm really proud of. But our next big project is we are building a directory of healthcare professionals. So that can include physicians, mental health clinicians, include anybody in the health provider space that are culturally competent in firearms and willing to step forward and say, I'm a gun-owning clinician, or I'm culturally competent, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest issues that we have at Walk Talk America is on a weekly basis, we get a lot of people who call and say, I want to do this. Do you have anybody you can recommend for me? Mm-hmm. And, we came up with the ideas. I was like, why do we have to hide in the shadows? You know what I mean? Like, let's just make a directory of people that, like I said, you could walk in there and you could say, yeah, I just went to the range, shot off 1,000 rounds. They're going to be like, oh, feel better? Right? Like,
right.
So we think it's important to create that directory.
That is very cool. You and Jake have a podcast, don't you guys?
Yeah, we have the Guns and Mental Health podcast. You can find it on any platform that hosts podcasts, Spotify, obviously Apple. It's great. What we like to do is just bring in all walks of life and talk about how firearms play a part in their life. We also like to shine a light on all the positive work in the firearms industry, because we're not getting on the cable stations and the news networks, because unless it's tragedy, they're not going to touch it, right? But there's so many awesome stories from people, or people that have experienced situations dealing with firearms, whether it be positive or negative, that we can talk about. So if people would love to check that out, I recommend it. Jake Wiskirchen is a licensed clinician. He's also a super gun enthusiast, Second Amendment supporter, which he walks in both worlds. So it's always interesting to hear his perspective on everything.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is awesome. Do you have any big family holiday traditions that you guys usually do?
No, the holidays, I take time to just sit and do nothing. The industry kind of slows down during those times. Mm-hmm. That space between Thanksgiving and Christmas has always been dead for all the things that I do industry-wise, right?
Yeah.
So I like to take that time to just kind of, this is when my daughters have their breaks. Mm-hmm. I get together with family members. My mother just moved from Chicago to Vegas. So that's been awesome, because my family and we've been out in Vegas on an island for so long, just us four, my wife and my two daughters. So now there's that element of having grandma there, which I love. So
that's
just
awesome.
Be around your family, take some time to think about what's coming up for the next year. For me in particular, I'm working on Avidity Arms with Rob Pincus.
Nice.
That's a new firearms company. Conceptually, the firearms company's been around for 7 years, but we're finally getting to the point where we're going to have this firearm ready for the public. We're looking to have the first firearms in the hands of riders, and I hope you get to shoot one too, if timing permits and location, that for people to fire this thing finally. It's a baby project of mine. So I'll be working a lot on that during the holidays, because we want to launch some stuff in January.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it's about time for us to wrap things up. Anything else that you'd like to plug?
No, I would just like to plug that, take a mental health screening during the holidays. Just check in on yourself, just to see where you're at. You know what I mean? I really recommend that and encourage it for everyone, because if anything, it gives you something to think about and talk about, and maybe talk about it with other family members. And I would also like to just plug our 2A community. Just keep fighting the good fight, and let's keep showing the world that, we do the most for freedom, liberty, family, and just, overall making Earth better.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I've said this a bunch of times, and I'll say it more. The people that I've met in the gun community are really some of the nicest and most welcoming and accepting people that I know. And I've gone from not knowing a lot of gun owners to knowing a ton of gun owners, and everyone's great. Everyone's nice and accepting, and the gun folks are the greatest folks.
It really is one of the most welcoming tents, right? Like, hey, you're afraid for your life, you don't like the way this is going, or you want to get into, protection, like, come on in. It's like that brings us all together. We might have different opinions or belief systems, but one thing, when you get into firearms, it's a great place to be, because there's so many different groups in there that you can say, like, I relate to these people and I love firearms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was just thinking, I had in the summer of 2020, I had a colleague that I work with who's a music teacher, and he reached out to me and he's like, hey, listen, I know we don't agree on things politically, but I'm concerned about all this stuff. Would you teach me how to use a gun? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, you would do that even though we don't agree on, we're on different sides of the political aisle? I'm like, yeah, that doesn't matter, man. Like, if you're in fear for your life, you need to, if you're concerned about your safety, you need to do something about it. And that's what I want to do. I want to show you how to be safe and how to be smart and how to not hurt yourself.
Yeah, we got to be welcoming. We got to normalize firearm ownership. Keep doing whatever we can to do that, and that's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I dig it. All right. Well, listen, Michael, thank you so much. I know I just asked for plugs. Did you plug the website?
Plug the website, WTTA.org, or if you go to social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Walk the Talk US.
All right, and we'll put in some links for that. We'll put in some links for the podcast as well. And I really appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and your schedule to give us some time for people here at Arm Lifestyle Magazine, and for writing Shotgun with Charlie, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime, Charlie. Thank you.